Hi, welcome to the Witty Entrepreneur. I am Jennifer Bassman, also known as the Witty Entrepreneur, and I am so glad that you are here joining me today. I'm grateful that you're here joining me today because I know that you have options on the internet, that you have other places you could be and other people that you could be listening to, or as we're going to talk about today, other people you could be judging. But I'm glad you're here today. All jokes aside, I am super glad and I am grateful that you're joining me today. If this is the first time you've met me, you've interacted with me, I am kind of a jokester. I do have a sense of humor and I like to add my humor, sometimes to serious topics, to lighten things up, to bring some levity. But I am a small business burnout master. What does that mean? It means that I help other small business owners, other burned out small business owners for that matter, work through and conquer their burnout so that their business fulfills them and instead of draining them actually. I am also a certified CliftonStrengths coach that helps you recognize your strengths and apply them so that you can lose your feelings of overwhelm and your fears of failure. Here on these lives on my page, we talk about all the things, all the topics that affect burnout or the burnout mindset. Even if we don't directly talk about burnout, we talk about the challenges, the changes, the situations, and the ideas that all play a role in keeping us burned out. Through the month of November, I'm actually calling it Nowvember. I am encouraging I'm encouraging everyone to work on being present by saying no to the things that distract you or take you away from things that are important. And it's imperative that when you're burned out, you learn how to say no in order for you to actually start recovering or recover from burnout. This was a hard lesson for me to learn. And I know that I missed out on a lot of memories and a lot of fun opportunities because I wasn't present in the moment. I was too busy worrying about where I wasn't, what I wasn't doing, who I wasn't making happy, the things that I promised other people that I would be doing. Or I was thinking about my never ending task list for some reason. But each week through the month of November, we are going to tackle an aspect of saying no that is so hard for many of us to do. Last week, we talked about when we should say no or when we should say yes for that matter, and what it looks like when you say no or when you say yes, and how we feel when we give those answers. This week, we are actually tackling the topic we're tackling what keeps us from saying no a lot of times, which is a fear of judgment. When we're afraid of being judged, there's just really no way we can be present, and because you can't be present because you're worried about what others are thinking of you. You're worried about what other people are going to say or think of you if you say no. You might be judging me right now if I say no, don't judge me. But talking about our fear of judgment is important. It's a topic that is common to just about everybody around the world. And that is why I'm encouraging us to think about it. Even though it is something I have worked on, it's a topic I, quote, have tackled, it is still something that it crops up every once in a while. And so it's important to have some sort of coping mechanism or some kind of strategy that helps you tamp down those fears, get rid of those fears of judgment. But talking about a fear of judgment is important because it plays major roles in how we interact with other people, our ability to say no when we need to, our ability to create and enforce boundaries. And the worst part, this fear of judgment, it keeps us stuck. It keeps us stuck in a place and being a person that often we really don't want to be. No one likes being judged, but wait for it, we all do it. Every single one of us do it every single day. Whether we're aware of it or not, consciously or subconsciously, we judge other people when they're walking down the street, when we're watching them on TV, when we vote, when we are listening to a podcast, when we read a book, when we listen to music. There is some type of judgment on some level going on. But if you spend your life, and I want you to think about this and really take this to heart, if you spend your life trying really hard not to be judged by anybody, you aren't really going to end up doing very much at all. So let's look first at why we judge each other or judge ourselves. Humans, we are meaning-making machines. We like to attach meaning to things. Everything has to be a meaning. We have to give meaning to everything we see. We have to give meaning to everything we do. And there has to be a meaning attached to everything in order for us to process what is happening and what is going on around us. Part of that process of attaching meaning comes out in the form of judgment. We are judging consciously and subconsciously. But and think about that because for just a second, that we judge consciously or subconsciously. I mean, what did you think about that car that just drove by? Was it ugly? Was it expensive? Was it going too fast? Was it going too slow? On some level, you were passing some judgment. The neighborhood that you drove through, or the houses that you pass by, the person that walks past you in the mall or sits down next to you in the theater. We're all judging on some level the person next to us or things that are around us. So I want to be really clear that with or without your control, it's happening. Whether you're aware of it or not, the judgment is happening. So no one is immune from judgment. Nobody. It's not possible. And I want you to consider this story about Oprah. And I bet you immediately had an opinion about her the second I said that name. But she told a story some years ago about receiving a letter from someone that told her to go back to Africa. Talk about passing judgment on someone. This is Oprah. She is an icon. I'm not saying that Oprah can't do any wrong, but a lot of people love Oprah. She's puts herself out there every day and has put herself out there for most of her life in front of us. So that's just something to think about, that it doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have, what you do, where you're going, what you say, some kind of judgment is being passed. The two biggest fears that most of us have when it comes to that most of us have are both about judgment, actually. Most of us have fears of abandonment. Are people going to reject me? And we also have fears of inadequacy, of am I good enough? Both of these fears are judgment based. I am actually going to do separate videos about both of those fears. The fear of abandonment in terms of, are people going to reject me? And I'll do another video on this fear of inadequacy that most of us have. Am I good enough? Because those all play a role, believe it or not, in your mindset, your game mindset, how you operate on a daily basis. And I know that I think about those two frequently, pretty much every day. But I will do a deeper, more in-depth video on both of those actually later this week. So stay tuned for those. But one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're thinking about judgment is that they try to avoid it. They try to avoid judgment. It's kind of natural, I think, that we all want to avoid judgment on some level. But remember a minute ago, I listed some very mundane ways that we pass judgment on each other. Whether it's conscious or subconsciously, we do it. But here is the secret that I promised you, my number one tip that I promised you, just in the title of this video at the outset, when you were judging whether or not you wanted to watch this today. So here it is. This is my primo tip. The most effective way to get through your fear of judgment is just to accept that you are going to be judged. That simple. Just accept that you are going to be judged. Just accept it. Just accept it, because you can't stop it and you cannot control it. So when you work from this place, and the reason that I'm encouraging you, and I tell you that that's my secret, that's the secret to this, that's where your power is going to come from when we talk about the fear of judgment, is that when you work from this place, you are understanding the judgment. You are understanding that we are all going to be judged. And you aren't working so hard and putting so much energy towards something that you cannot control. You're working from a place of power because you are controlling the messages that you are allowing in, the messages that you are allowing to affect you. This was something that I had to get through my head in order to do these very videos. I had to accept the fact that no matter what I did, what I said to people was going to be judged on some level. And I had to accept that in order to put myself out there and give a piece of myself to the world. And I love this thought that I read somewhere. Stop asking how good you are and start asking what the world needs. So stop focusing on yourself, stop focusing on that fear of judgment, and start focusing on what other people need from you. And how I deal with my own judgment, I do ask myself this very question: how many people can I help when I show up? When I lose that fear of rejection, when I lose that fear of inadequacy, how many people can I help by showing up, by sharing myself and sharing what I know? And when I work from this place, when I work from a place of an open heart, that is when I have the most impact on other people. So something to keep in mind before I close off and leave you, something to keep in mind is that when people are judging, this is kind of I should say something that I keep in mind, and something I'd also like you to keep in mind is that when people are judging me, they're judging an interpretation of me. It's just the surface of what they see. But most of these people, they don't know me, just like they don't know you. I don't know you when I judge you. Literally, all these people are doing when they judge me is putting out into the world a version of who they are. And I am just the mirror for that. So basically, they're putting their own feelings, their feelings of I can't even say that word today, inadequacy or rejection on me. A lot of the time, that very judgment that you and I are experiencing from other people, or we think that we're experiencing from other people, has absolutely nothing to do with us. I'm glad you joined me today. I hope I gave you some food for thought today. And I would love to hear what you think about today's topic, what you think about today's video. Share some thoughts if you're comfortable talking about your fears of rejection, your fears of, of not being good enough sometimes, fears of inadequacy, fears of being rejected, or just your fears of judgment all around. And share if you have any tips or tricks that you have employed over the years or over some time that have helped you drop that fear of judgment and gain more confidence so that you can show up as yourself, because it's important to be who you are and share who you are with others. If you need to find me, you can find me at jennifer@jenniferbassman.com. You can also find me here on this Facebook page. And I would love it if you shared this video with some other people that you think need to hear this message, and shared this page with some others that you think need some help getting through burnout. And I just saw a comment, why didn't they teach us this in college? I would love to know myself, Natalie. It's a great question. But I'm glad you're here. Share away, and love that you were here today. I'm judging you for that.